And maybe that's a little bad that you're all developers, because I'm not. I'm not a developer. But we're going to talk about a developer tool. I know that's a little ironic. We're talking about a developer tool. I'm not a developer. But we're going to try. So, Subsquid, making the next gen of Web3 possible. Now, what does that mean? Actually, today I haven't really heard the term Web3 very often. That's interesting. In the English language events, we hear that term all the time. Maybe it's a buzzword. Maybe people don't really understand it. So Web3, let's just define it very simply as the decentralized web. So what does that mean? Are we in Web3 right now? I don't think so, right? I don't think so. Like, the things we do online, we mostly do in Web2, don't we? You know, social media, you know, talking to other members of this event on Telegram. We're doing it in Web2. So how are we going to get to that next level of the web, of the decentralized web, where we are doing all these things in a decentralized manner, where we connect a wallet, or maybe we won't be connecting a wallet? How do we get there? It's a really big question, and I'm going to offer one answer, one part of the answer, and that is Subsquid. So, about me, just really quickly. I'm in the Web3 space since before it was really called that, before that buzzword came about. Since 2017, and I've worked in a lot of different verticals of the crypto industry. And I feel very fortunate to be working at Subsquid now because we're working in all those verticals, but those verticals are actually starting to work thanks to Subsquid. And again, like I said, I'm a BD guy, I'm a business developer, and I'm here to talk about dev tools. But maybe it's not so strange, because what does a business developer do? He helps to solve problems, and I'm interested in anybody's problems, including developers, maybe especially developers. That's why I'm here. So let's get into it. What is Subsquid? So what I wrote on our website, at least, is Subsquid is Web3's most performant and resource-efficient indexer, API framework, and backend as a service platform. Now, maybe even some of the developers in the room don't know what an indexer is. And then an API framework, that's more or less understood. And then backend as a service, I think that's a little better understood. That's more of a Web2 term, probably. But can that work in Web3? Well, we're about to find out. But let's unpack all of this. So, data indexing. So, in general, data indexing is about speeding up access to data. And here we're talking about Web3 data. Now, what is Web3 data? That's blockchain data, data from blockchains. So, why is data indexing important? Why do we need data indexing? Well, first, about UX. So, we were just talking about all these use cases that don't work in the current Web3, like social media. You need things like instant caching. Gaming, you need instant caching, right? You need really fast loading and responsiveness. You need versatile backends for data-rich UI. And you need scaling to handle thousands of online users at a time. Like, I don't know, I spend a lot of time on DappRadar as a business developing guy, and I'm looking at the number of users there. It's not thousands. I'm sorry, it's not yet. And we need it for better dev UX. So indexing lets devs focus on the DApp business logic, not on data issues like storage, caching, serialization of fast queries. So again, I'm not a dev, but I know in Web2, devs don't spend that much time figuring out how to get access to the data. There's already tools for that. In Web3, okay, maybe you do spend time, but there's tools available for you. In Web3, there's really not much. I mean, there's a couple well-known solutions, and we'll talk about those in a second, that aren't quite doing what we need for the next generation. But there's really not too much. So let's look at how data indexing works. So before there were tools for data indexing in Web3, we basically had the blockchain, and this is a very Polkadot-centric picture, because we've got Polkadot.js there. The developer had to figure out a way to get data despite changes in Polkadot.js library, updates to the chain. Like everybody here, I think, has heard of runtime upgrades. I think they've been mentioned earlier. Missing type definitions and slow gRPC. That can be an issue. Like you have access to a single gRPC and that's very slow. So the key issue was that indexing is slow. Any significant change in an API requires a full scan of the blockchain. I think developers here know all about that, especially if they've used some of our competing solutions. You're sitting there for days and days and days and days and days, waiting. Also, gRPC nodes can become a bottleneck. That means they become very, very slow. And it's just not working right now for these high TPS use cases that we talked about. So, introducing Subsquid, we can index all of Kusama in 15 minutes. I'm going to show that in a second. Yeah, that's 50,000 blocks per second. Yeah. Subsquid right now can index other chains, at least in Substrate, 20 to 100 times faster than other indexers. And we're going to go into a little bit why that is. So, before, we had all those problems on the side. Here, we have Subsquid's infrastructure. So what we've done is we've split it up. We've split up the indexer. So we have an archive and a squid. FireSquid, that's the latest release of our squids in archives. And Alexei, who did all of that, he's in here. So you can ask him about it afterwards. So basically, we're able to solve these problems of speed with the processors carrying out batch requests to the archive and the archive sending back filtered data. So I don't know who here is familiar with the graph. When you create a subgraph, that has to sync with the entire blockchain. With Subsquid, when you create a squid, it doesn't have to sync with the blockchain when you're developing because we have all of the normalized data already in the archive. It radically reduces the development time, and then when you need to iterate, when you make any sort of change, the data's already there. Just wait a little while. So that's basically the comparison of it. It's a little beyond me as a non-developer. So, and here, again, a little beyond my knowledgeability, but you can see how it works. The processor targets the Kusama archive that we have set up. Currently, we're maintaining these. They're free to access. Here, the developer put the data that they would like to get. And then here's the proof. 50,000 blocks per second for block transfers on Kusama. So, just a very simplified look at how to build with Subsquid. You clone the template on our GitHub. You fill in the schema. It's a lot like building with the graph here. It's just the stuff behind the scenes is making it go a lot faster. Then you iterate and deploy. So there's a ton of really dev-friendly features. Type safety, built-in auto-completion. You can do SQL queries. We have a custom codec. So this is something to bring up here because it's a Polkadot event. I'm told there's a lot of problems with Polkadot.js. I know there's parity guys in here. I don't know. This conversation's beyond me. But I know different types of changes can really slow down things. So we've bypassed that. Again, you can ask Alexei about that. He helped to do that. We offer support for external libraries and external API calls. That's a really, really important point. So subgraphs with their monolithic architecture are unable to do this. But squids, because they separate the ingestion from the data transformation they are. We support aliases. Basically, that means when you make an update to your squid, to your API, you're able to update it, and you don't have to change anything in your config. Basically, with a single command in the CLI, you just send that new version of your Squid to that endpoint, and also GraphQL subscriptions. Now that's, of course, a very big thing. Okay, so the next aspect of our service. I think it's maybe even a more controversial aspect of our service. This is maybe our Web 2.5 aspect. We offer a backend as a service. It's called the aquarium. So Subsquid, we will host your squids, host your APIs. And right now we're doing it for free. But in the future, it will be shitcoin free. So if anybody here builds with a graph, you know what I mean. You're going to be able to, in the future, when we launch our decentralized network, predict your monthly expenses. Because the aquarium will take payments in USDC and other stable coins. So you will not be affected by a shitcoin going up and down in price by, 70% affecting your infrastructure costs. And we will be using a freemium model. But as I said a couple times, it's free for now. So right now, to get into the part that I'm more familiar with, getting away from the tech, right now Subsquid powers more than 200 projects. And so that includes dApps and the biggest wallets in .sama. If you are a .sama user, a Polkadot or Kusama user, you probably are using an app that gets data from Subsquid. So currently, in terms of our support for chains, the chains that we can get data from, it's all substrate chains, including those that have EVM and EVM+. We're good friends with the guys at Moonbeam, Star. We have full support for Akala. The thing we're really excited about is WASM. No, I haven't heard too much today about WASM, but that's WebAssembly, and that's going to open a lot of possibilities for smart contract development going into the future for these more advanced use cases. And we offer support for that. We're the only guys to do it. Another couple guys have said they do it, but we've looked at it and they don't. And so let's just go look at some use cases, some ways that people are using Subsquid right now. And it really spans the entire Polkadot ecosystem. So earlier today, in Dennis's first talk, he explained crowd loans. We work with a lot of projects that are doing their crowd loan. We help them to provide essential data. So the data might be used by their internal business team, their internal business, like they need business analytics, of course, or it might be used, for example, to provide rewards to participants, right? So they might provide rewards to the top referrers, for example. We can provide information about who the top referrers are, and then they're able to calculate the rewards for those participants. So this example is, of course, Centrifuge. But like most recently, we provided data to the Snow parachain. So Subwallet, I'm sure there's a few Subwallet users in here. So we provide data to them. They're one of our close partners. And so for these guys, it's really quite interesting. They don't have to really do much development work at all with our API framework. All they have to do is plug in the URLs to existing APIs that we have in our aquarium, and it works. They get the data they need. But let's look at this other wallet. I wonder if there's some Talisman wallet users here. They're doing some really, really cool stuff right now. So on the one hand, they use us much like Subwallet uses us, but they're doing some interesting innovations. They're using squids as a sort of Web3 cache. And basically what it is, you log in and you see the logos for all the different coins that you might have in your wallet. And those are saved in the Squid's database, as far as I understand. It works sort of like a cache for Web3. Then we're working with the biggest NFT platforms and metaverses right now on .sama. Most recently, we helped with the Sky Breach land sale. They're using squids to provide data in a few different ways. One funny way is there's a game where these things called chumkies or chomkeys, something like that. They pop up, and we help them to provide the calculations for how that works and how users are rewarded. We are powering Rare Sama. So that's actually the biggest NFT marketplace on Polkadot. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the Moon Sama ecosystem, but they're doing some crazy stuff. They're about, like, here's some interesting information that you might not have if you don't sit on Twitter all day. They're about to launch a EVM smart contract platform that we'll see, maybe we'll try to compete with some of the other big ones. Interlay, here's a really interesting use case. So maybe a couple talks ago, I heard somebody mention how there's a proof of work parachain. Of course, Interlay is not that. Well, not a parachain that's proof of work, but a substrate-based chain that's proof of work. But Interlay, they're a project that is basically doing a sort of bridge with Bitcoin, and they use us for various DeFi dashboard use cases, as well as, I believe, some governance use cases. And then here's another well-known BeamSwap, another well-known DeFi platform that uses us, BeamSwap. So, what's next? I'm going to provide some alpha. So, we've gotten really good at EVM. We are the best at it in the ecosystem, and we're interested in some new experiences and trying to build in other places where people are building different interesting things. So very soon, there's going to be some announcements about support for EVM chains, including Polygon and Ethereum. And maybe there might be a parachain incoming. So that's something to look out for. Now, I left some resources here. I don't know if these presentations will be made available later, but if you're interested, we have some public repositories for all for example, the archives that are publicly available. You can access this data. You can access the aquarium to see all these squids, all these APIs, and get data to that absolutely free. And then the template project. If you're interested in trying out building a squid, you can go to that third bullet point, the template project, clone it, and try for yourself. Or you can just run it and make some queries. And that's it, Madloba. It was nice to speak to you.